Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Man, I'm so excited that they finally got the deal across the line. Claressa Shields and Savannah Marshall have signed, and they're going to be getting it on in September. Outstanding news. It really is. You know, these two have been going back and forth at it for quite some time. Two exceptional fighters with a lot of history. I've done multiple videos on Claressa Shields and Savannah Marshall. Not going to go all the way back down into the weeds on these two, except it stems from back in the amateur days where Claressa Shields lost to Savannah Marshall. Claressa Shields says she was just a child, and she's a woman now, and she's the GWOAT. And now that she's the GWOAT's going to be winning. And she just doesn't think Savannah Marshall has anything for her. Claressa Shields, and you know, we gotta give Claressa Shields a credit, man. She's a monster. This is not an easy fight for either one of them, and this is one of those classic. It really is a classic boxer versus like a boxer puncher slash. Yeah, I think a boxer versus a boxer puncher. And I'm calling Claressa Shields the boxer. I'm not really calling her the boxer puncher because she hasn't shown the ability with one shot to clip her opponents, but it's more just like an accumulation of punches. With Savannah Marshall, doesn't matter the type of opponent she had in front of her. Okay, that's all subject to opinion. But the fact is, she's shown that she catches you clean. She can get you out of there. And Savannah Marshall does a lot of, herky-jerky stuff. I've covered this in other videos. I'm really trying not to get into it. But Savannah Marshall reminds me of Tyson Fury. And the reason for that is because she's trained by his uncle Peter Fury, who helped bring up Tyson Fury. That same kind of plodding along style, the jab, the shots, even the way she throws her shots, it just really reminds me of Tyson Fury. But the thing about this fight, right, now, and I'm not one to stir the pot on rumors and gossip, but this is something that's being thrown around out there. You know, when fighters aren't signed up for VADA testing and they're getting knockouts, okay, people tend to speculate that maybe there's something more going on with that fighter that's not visible. In other words, we're talking about, enhancement, some kind of way to enhance their performance, PEDs. And Claressa Shields, whether it's just trying to, hype up the fight and get eyes on the fight, she's gone out to talk a little bit about suspecting Savannah Marshall to use PEDs and her not wanting to sign up for the VADA testing. I personally have never heard anybody say anything about Savannah Marshall. There's never been any rumors about her as far as I know. I just think this was Claressa Shields' way of trying to strong-arm Savannah Marshall into committing to VADA testing. And Savannah Marshall, with no problem, no qualms, she happily signed up for VADA testing. Now she's enrolled. The fight's on. But I think, especially when you have a highly anticipated title bout, there should be VADA testing. We've seen where fighters have gone into these huge matches with a lot of attention on it, and VADA testing wasn't, imposed. And some people would say, well, why don't these guys commit to VADA testing? Well, I'm going to tell you, VADA testing is expensive as hell. Okay, so that's probably the number one reason. Then two, somebody probably on the Canelo beef. All right, and we look at Jarrell Miller. You got a 300-plus pound man floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee over 12 rounds. I just watched that and thought, man, this is an amazing athlete. And then you find out that he was, damn near living on Skid Row. The type of shit he had in his system, So Jarrell Miller was Skid Row the whole time, and we didn't even realize that. So that's why VADA testing is some kind of, accountability system needs to be in place to ensure an even playing field, a level playing field across the fighters. But Claressa Shields is really saying that she feels Savannah Marshall, if she underperforms going into their fight in September, that's going to tell the story on Savannah Marshall and what she was doing before enrolling in VADA testing. Now, you see, this is what I don't understand. When fighters start pushing those kind of narratives, suggesting that people are cheating, where's the defamation lawsuit? Where's the slander lawsuit? Or at the same time, if say some people are like, you know what, I'm not going to push that. Why go pay some jackass lawyer all this money and then come out in a court case that maybe it just gets brushed under the carpet? Because, in my opinion, you may get a handful of lawyers that truly care about you. They're all about the money. Most lawyers, before you even talk to them, they want, a certain amount up front. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. And if they decide to take your case, that money goes towards the court. It's just all kind of shit dealing with lawyers. So I can understand where a person would be like, you know what, I'm not pushing it. But if you have the plata, if you have the money, man, push it. Don't let somebody come out there, man, and when it comes to your character, when it comes to your last name, and just slander you like that. You got to hold ground. You got to hold your position. But then again, I also believe that you don't take on every cocklehole that you meet. If you take on every cocklehole that you meet in life, you'll be a busy person. Who has that much time on their hands? So I think sometimes just let people talk and just, you come out, say a few things, stick up for yourself, but you're just like, I'll show you in the ring, or I'll show you through my performance, or whatever it is. Or with time, you'll see for yourself what kind of person I am, my character, as I continue getting these wins, whether in the boxing ring, in a work center, or wherever, okay? So I understand that too. But going into this fight, it's just one of those fights where, on paper, you could go with Marshall to win. On paper, you can go with Shields. If this is a boxing match, you got to give Shields the upper hand. It's just got to be fair. If Shields can box the whole 12 rounds, if the self-proclaimed GWOAT can box from the first second of round 1 to the last second of round 12 and stay on her toes and be intelligent, she wins the fight. Okay? Now, at the same time, I'm not saying Savannah Marshall is someone who just has heavy feet and just looking to slug away. No, Savannah Marshall can box. But for Claressa Shields to put on a Bivol-like performance, one of those Mayweather-esque versus type performance, for her to do that, she's going to have to be special on that night, because Savannah Marshall can box. Savannah Marshall has IQ. Savannah Marshall can cut the ring off. Savannah Marshall can knock you out with either hand. Savannah Marshall has a good chin. Savannah Marshall's not just going to stand there and let you keep the distance, control her head with your stiff arm. She's just not going to let you get in and out and just escape damage. And Savannah Marshall's the bigger fighter. So I do think with Shields' speed, her angles, her ability to let off those combinations, to throw combinations off the rope, I think she has a lot of advantages. But this is where the fight gets sticky for Shields. And I've said this before. I'm going to tell you. The fight gets sticky for Shields when and if she decides, I'm going to hold my position, and I'm going to show that I'm the knockout artist. I got the bigger punch. Savannah Marshall can't hurt me. Let me tell you, if Savannah Marshall can touch Shields, she can hurt Shields. And I think Shields can hurt her too, but it's more the difference of like maybe, I don't know, man, like a sledgehammer hitting you by Marshall, and with Shields, maybe somebody just kind of, a bee sting, you know what I'm saying? Shields is she's not a power puncher, man. She's one of them volume punchers. And she got enough sting on her shots where she can get you dazed. But you're watching her performances. She's not knocking anyone out with one shot. It's just an accumulation of shots and TKOs and stopping the fight. Marshall can get you out of there, man. She's got that eraser. But at the same time, Shields has proven, man, that she'll rise to the occasion. Now, this is something else that could come into play, okay? So again, you see, I'm trying to be fair and unbiased. It just depends on who can impose their will, impose their strategy, and who's the strongest mentally. Because the fight's going to get sticky in there for both of them at some point. What are they going to do when that happens? But this is something else that I got to be concerned about. Savannah Marshall, she had a surgery, on her hand or something. And so July, August, September. So if it was her hand or her arm, I don't know the extent of the surgery or the injury, but it almost seems a little bit quick to me to come back to get in the ring. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical expert. But if Savannah Marshall really did, which I believe she did, go through some kind of surgery for her arm or her hand, and she gets in the ring and that starts to give her a little bit of issues, then we can see her probably definitely losing that fight. But we don't want to hear any excuses. But I think she's, an intelligent woman. She's not going to get in the ring if she's not 100% because she's doing sparring. She's doing all these things before the fight. So if that injury is going to be somewhat, exacerbated, it would show up, you would think, before fight night. And if so, they would address it immediately. But we know they both want to fight and they don't want to push fights back. And fighters at times with injuries will go into a fight because they don't want to miss the opportunity. They don't want to miss the payday. It's been pushed back once already. Remember, they're supposed to fight in July. And Claressa Shields went on to say she feels Savannah Marshall was faking an injury. But just about extra time and to get herself together, and was telling Savannah Marshall, stop lying to the fans. But we'll see. We'll see if Savannah Marshall was just buying herself time. Well, that's good. But it's all speculation, man. You got to give these fighters the benefit of the doubt, especially these two. They haven't shown to be the kind of fighters to make excuses, to try to duck commitments, and to be fighters who aren't, going to stand behind their word. So I would say Savannah Marshall really did have an injury. But it's kind of interesting to see the two of them going back and forth at each other. I think people are split. Fans are split on who's going to win this fight. We already know that a lot of Brits, and this is one thing I'm going to say, a lot of the Brits, of course, they're going to stand behind Savannah Marshall. But they're also giving respect to Shields. They are. And, American fighters, unfortunately, a lot of the diehard boxing fans would know who Savannah Marshall is. But there are others who don't really know her name. And, of course, Claressa Shields, MMA, winning all those different weight divisions, 2 gold medals. She's known, but she's not as known as I think she deserves to be known, I'll tell you that. But her name is out there more. But with Savannah Marshall, a lot of people now have to go and try to watch videos on her and get up to speed on what she brings to the table. Because there's a lot of talk right now about Savannah Marshall. Who's this lady coming from England, who's going to be fighting Marshall? Why are people giving her a good chance to knock, coming from England to fight Shields? And why are people giving her a good chance to possibly stop Shields? And so now people are watching and paying attention. So that's a good thing for Savannah Marshall. So now that she has the world's attention, like Shields does, Savannah Marshall can really capitalize on this opportunity. But she's not a vocal person. Remember, she goes by the silent assassin. And she knocked out, in April, she knocked out Femke Hermans to retain her title. So Savannah Marshall, man, she's the real deal. And so is Claressa Shields, but both fighters are ready. They're signed, and they're ready to get it on. And I can't wait. Although it's taking a while, I just think for Claressa Shields, she finally feels like she got the match she wants. Like, she really feels like this is the one that was a thorn in her side. And so will she rise to the occasion? Or will she go in there full of emotion, trying to, kind of make up for that loss when she was an amateur against Marshall, get careless and get Rolly Romero'd? It can happen. So I just think the fight is so big at this point that they're fighting over there in England, but an international venue would be spot on. But it's still happening over in England. But this is a fight, honestly, and it's for an undisputed distinction too. They could fight in anywhere. Like right now, the female boxing is bubbling. Boxing is bubbling. This is the season of the undisputed champion, and this is just another one of those matches that's going to make history. So I'll tell you right now, we got to definitely put some respect on the names and get ready for an exciting match. It's going to be 2-minute rounds, so you know what the 2-minute rounds with the ladies, they go all out. So if you're not up on Shields, you guys get smart. If you're not up on who Savannah Marshall is, go and get smart. This is not one of those fights where you already know who's going to win. This is just one of those fights where, to me, it's a toss-up. Because Savannah Marshall's not going to quit, neither is Shields. Shields has faster hands. Shields has a great boxing IQ. Savannah Marshall a little bit slower. She has more power, though. She has a great boxing IQ. And you better believe they've studied Shields as Shields has studied Marshall. Peter Fury is working on a great game plan, just like Claressa Shields. But the one thing I'm going to be paying attention to is to see what happens if Shields gets hit cleanly. If Savannah Marshall can't hurt her, then what do we have? Now, the other thing I'll be paying attention to is what's Savannah Marshall going to do when she's getting overwhelmed? Because, Shields is a volume puncher, and she's getting caught with clean combinations. Claressa Shields will rattle off a 14-punch combination like it's nothing. What's Savannah Marshall going to do? Is she going to get gun-shy, or is she going to just try to push through it? You see, that's what we got to pay attention to. Also, we got to watch the stamina issues. Who's going to get tired? Is someone going to show fatigue in the fight? See, all those things can contribute to their opponent getting the upper hand. And the last thing I'm really going to pay attention to, since there's been so much talk about it, is this whole VADA testing. VADA testing. Let's see at the end of the fight if both of them look the same, if they both look stronger, or if for some reason they both or one of them looked a little weaker than they have in fights before. Still doesn't suggest that they were cheating. It just means they had an opponent in front of them that made them work really hard. But those are the things that I'm definitely going to be paying attention to. And if you ask me who I think is going to win this fight, I'm going to go ahead and say the fans. The fans win the fight. But anyway, if it goes 12, I think Claressa Shields outboxes and wins. If she stands to hold her ground, I think she gets in trouble, gets hurt, and could possibly get stopped. But Savannah Marshall can box too. We just have to see who can make the adjustments, man, and who has the better brain in this fight. This fight is going to be about who has the better brain. And we'll find out on fight night. That being said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to the veterans. Undisputed season. Can't wait to watch this fight in September. Y'all keep safe. I'm in the breeze.